If you're like me and you generally do skip the ads at the start of a podcast, well, I can't blame you. But if you are still listening and you either don't have a physio or the one you're at you're not too happy with, we'll do something about it and get into Motion Theory Physio and see one of their incredible physios. At 296A Goodwood Road, Clarence Park, book an appointment with Gabe, Alex, Tyson, Eloise or Lucy. They are open from 8 a.m. till 7 p.m. Monday to Friday, and they're also open 8 till midday on Saturday mornings. If you go into Google, they have 25 reviews, all giving them a 5-star rating. So please give them a call on 70992289 or check them out on their Instagram, Motion Theory Physio. Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Half Wit. I am your host, Matt Whitford. Can you believe it? We're at episode 3. This is absolutely crazy. These last 3 weeks have absolutely flown since the pilot episode 1 with Hayden Jolly, and last week's episode with Abby Ballard. Massive thanks to everyone for liking and following the Matt Whitford podcast on either Instagram, where I think we're nearly at 700 followers. Spotify and Apple Podcasts have had nearly 300 streams each. And I have no idea how we're going on YouTube, but apparently it's on there as well. Today's guest, well, we're going to get Benny Miller back in for the second part of this show, and he'll tell us about what happened on Saturday night in the Crows versus Collingwood 3-quarter time competition. For all of you that listened last week, I'm sure you're keenly interested to hear how Benny went in the Jayco Catcher Camper. But my main guest today, Colleen O'Malley. Colleen is going to tell the story of basically, how she was deported out of our country and back to America, where Colleen was born. It is an absolutely fascinating story. I don't think there's too many of us can say they know a friend or someone who has been deported, but very soon you will. Enjoy episode 3 with Colleen O'Malley. Colleen O'Malley, welcome to the Matt Whitford podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Now, Colleen, bit of a backstory on you. Born in Philadelphia, in
Yes.
the state of Pennsylvania, for those playing at home. Daughter to Kathy and Richard.
Yes, that's correct.
3 older brothers, Matt, Chris and Ryan, therefore instantly making you the golden child.
Always.
Grew up in Melbourne, so about 35 minutes half hour from Philly. Attended Great Valley Middle School and High School. So this is where you excelled in lacrosse and basketball, and I guess the plan was to play college basketball?
Yes, originally I grew up, playing basketball ever since I could walk, and that was my goal, to play basketball in college. And then all of a sudden at around the age of 15, picked up a lacrosse stick and never looked back.
So before we get to lacrosse, while at high school, you scored 1,000 points across your 4 years. And you were the first player in 15 years to do that. And then the next year, a bloke named Mikal Bridges, currently playing for the New York Knicks, who have just been eliminated in the playoffs, he did the same thing. So you were pretty handy.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, it's a pretty cool accomplishment to be able to say that, I'm on the same banner at my high school as somebody who's playing in the NBA.
Kobe Bryant also just attended high school just down the road. So 3 big names. Now, just let's get to college straight away. So being an Australian, sort of when we finish high school, you go to university, but I guess you go and play for a sporting club. That's where you progress with your sport. Obviously in America, US, very different. You went to the University of Louisville on a scholarship?
Yep, that's correct. Yeah, so I feel like those in the States, playing sport is essentially what can get you to a good college. Not necessarily, grades can also get you there, but if you do excel at sports, it can also help get you into college and get you a degree. So my best route of getting a college degree was through sport, and so lacrosse it was for me.
So a half scholarship.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. So depending on what different sport you play, there's a certain number of scholarships that they allot per sport. So there's usually about 30 girls on a lacrosse team, and I believe they're allowed to give out roughly 15 full scholarships, but they can break it up however they want. So they could give one person 10%, they could give somebody 90,
Yep.
half, and however it does.
So very good college lacrosse player. In your senior year, you won the Big East. You were minor premiers. You went on to win the Big East. Went to the NCAA tournament. Made it to the Sweet 16, which is an enormous achievement. And then when you graduated in 2014, you were 23 years old, and were sort of like, what was next?
Most people, after they come out of college, have a job kind of lined up and they know what they're going to do. I had no idea what I was doing after college. I kind of graduated and hung around for about a month and then didn't really have a job to go back to, and found out that I could go up and work this all-girls summer camp up in Maine, for middle school to high schoolers, and where these girls just come, and I was just a lacrosse instructor at a lacrosse camp, like at a full camp, but I just did lacrosse there.
So you met Amy Stokes when you were there. Amy, a Kiwi. So 2015, you thought you'd go on a little bit of a gap year. Came down to New Zealand, had Christmas there, went to Fiji. What a country, by the way. Bulla, Vanaka. The only two words you need when you go to Fiji. And then started January, arrived in Sydney with a backpack and a year-long working holiday visa. So how'd you end up in Adelaide, where we are right now?
Yeah, so I spent about a month in Sydney, just kind of getting my, settled in, seeing what I wanted to do, realized that I, kind of needed to find work to help prolong my year-long stay. And I found out that one of my friends from college was playing baseball in Adelaide, and he would be leaving in like the next 3 weeks. So if I didn't come to Adelaide to visit him, I wouldn't have gotten to see him. So he had played baseball at the University of Louisville. So I headed to Adelaide, stayed with a friend that I had met through that same summer camp. And while I was there, he had kind of put the idea in my head that lacrosse season was next. If you want to stay and play lacrosse here, they'll put you up with a host family and they'll help you find work. So I thought, what an easy way to do it if I can get put with the host family and they'll help me find work.
And that's where I first met you in 2016 when I met you through your now husband, Tom, and the mighty Brighton Lacrosse Club, one of the most successful lacrosse clubs going around there in South Australia, if not the country. You went back to America. You went to Bali, I believe, because you had to leave the country because of your holiday visa, and then you came back on a visitor's visa?
Yep. So I originally was on the year-long visitor visa, did my year here, and then left the country, and then had to apply for a new visa and applied for that year-long visitor visa so that I could spend some more time with Tom and really decide like if this relationship was what we really wanted to pursue. So
you moved in with Tom and you survived. So testament to yourself for that, because not many have. When you were here in 2017, what did you do for work?
So I was technically working.
And to our listeners out there, this is where it gets really, really interesting. So stay tuned.
So technically I was here legally. I was legally allowed to be in the country, but I was illegally working. So while I was on my year-long working holiday visa, I was working at a cafe. I will not name the cafe. But then when I came back on my visitor visa, they were happy to continue to pay me cash, like under the table, to continue working for them. So I just decided it was easy. They were going to keep paying me. And instead of just freeloading and living off Tom, I decided that, I should be working and paying rent and all of these other things. So I was just working at a cafe.
And for all you young listeners out there, cash is a form of currency. There's notes and coins. It's not just tapping plastic against machines and paying for things. So June 2017, Colleen, you've gone to Japan and South Korea as a coach of the under-23 Australian women's lacrosse team. Obviously had a great time over there. It was when you flew out of Hong Kong and you arrived back in Adelaide. That's where things, I guess, took a turn for the worse, and probably a big reason why we're here right now. So, can you maybe just give us a quick play-by-play analysis of when you are maybe in the lineup at customs and what went from there?
Yeah, of course. So if you've ever seen Border Security, this is essentially what you would have been watching. Wish they were filming that day because I could have been a big star. But yeah, so I, get off the get off the plane with some of my team members, and for some reason, I just had a weird inkling that I shouldn't be matching them. I shouldn't be like in the Team Australia garb.
Oh, so you're all wearing your tracksuit and your jacket.
No, so I've switched from the tracksuit and the jacket into just regular clothes so that I wouldn't look like I was part of the team anymore. I don't know why. I just had a weird feeling that something would have gone wrong if I was matching them. And then, so, you go through, you scan your passport, and all of that stuff, and you get your customs declaration. I remember handing mine over to the TSA agent. They had kind of marked something on it, and I didn't think too much of it, and then kind of went through to scan my passport and stuff, and it just wasn't scanning how it normally would, as like, just you scan and you usually walk through. So at that point, they kind of pulled me out of the line and took me over to the customs area where now this is in border security, where they like search your bags. They make you take everything out of your bags. Everything, they're going through everything one by one, like clothing, taking it out, shaking it, making sure that there's nothing hidden. I don't know if they thought I was a drug runner or what. But essentially, they took everything. They took my laptop, my cell phone. They had to ask for my passwords, logins, everything. And, you kind of just have to give them that information.
Did you have any idea? Now, obviously, you had been working, cashies, working illegally. Were you worried you'd be in serious trouble, or what was going through your head when they were doing that?
While they were doing that, I just remember being like, what are they looking for? Like I was more thinking, do they think like I'm a drug runner type thing? I wasn't really thinking that they were searching for somebody illegally working. So I just was kind of like, you really don't have anything to worry about. It's not like you've done any, like I haven't killed somebody. I haven't brought in illegal drugs. So I really wasn't at that time thinking that this was anything too serious.
Yeah, and then they went through some emails, and I believe they found one inferring that your pay was in the top drawer. And I guess that was where it was really exposed that you'd been working illegally. You were taken to a room for more questions. Keep in mind, you'd flown back from Hong Kong. I'm assuming you probably had a pretty late night after the lacrosse tournament. You've gone to the interrogation room. What more were they? What questions were they asking you when you were in there?
So when I got to the interrogation room, this is where they kind of pulled out. They somehow put my phone on a scanner and like blew up the messages. They were on Facebook Messenger. It was like, "Hey, honey, your pay's in the top drawer."
Yep.
So and so called out sick. Is there any way you could work today? All of this stuff. So they've pulled them out, and then they're just kind of sliding them across the table to me, just going this was on your phone. What do you have to say about this? Where were you working? How many hours a week were you working? They were just, I guess, trying to get me to like incriminate myself.
Did they actually print them? Like printed these?
Yes, it was printed.
And pass them off across.
Correct.
Okay, like in the movies. Yep.
Yes.
So you were no commenting, like just no comment.
So they were so they're so they would slide it across. How many hours were you work? How many hours of work did you work? And I would just say no comment. Who hired you? No comment. I did find out later that they actually did call the business and they asked to speak to Colleen when they called. And whoever was on the other line was who worked at the cafe was like, there's no one here that works by that name or anything. So they did have my back and not knowing, but they did have my back at the cafe. But at that point, there was too much evidence.
So the customs officers pretty much come back in and said, you've got 10 minutes to think about what you're going to say, just so we don't cancel your visa. So you've had your 10 minutes and you're probably stewing on it. When they came back in, what was your spiel, or what was your statement to them about where to go from here?
My spiel was more along the lines of, like I had actually left the country to coach this under 23 team. There's no real money in lacrosse, unlike footy. So I actually had to pay to go coach this team. So my spiel was that, I was giving back to Australia via like helping out, trying to grow lacrosse.
And dating one of our locals as well. Yes.
By trying to grow lacrosse. And like for me to do that, I did need to work so that I could afford to go help coach these girls and, help them learn lacrosse and so on. They didn't really seem to care.
And like all the customs officers you see on border security, they don't really listen to too many stories. Colleen did write down exactly pretty much what was said to her. And it pretty much was, well, due to the evidence we have and due to the breach of your visa conditions, we are cancelling your visa and we are detaining and deporting you. Now, did you then ask to be deported to New Zealand?
Yeah, so they were kind of explaining being deported and, we'll deport you to your home country. And I just thought, oh, that's going to be very expensive because, got to fly all the back to the US. And I don't know why, but I thought I'd give it a shot and say, well, could you deport me to New Zealand? Because my one of my good friends, Amy Stokes, was there. And I just thought, well, I'll just apply for a working holiday visa in New Zealand. I'll go work on her farm. I'll, do a year over there, like still be close and be on that side, keep traveling.
So they've said to you, no, that's not the case. We're going to deport you back to your home country via Hong Kong, because that was where you just flew in from. And then basically what they gave you back your phone to make a few phone calls or...
Yep. So once they advised that they were canceling my visa and I was being deported, that's when I was given back all my electronics. I then had to hand over my credit card. And so while somebody was going off and booking me flights via my credit card, I was then handed back my phone. And that's when I was able to make phone calls. So, of course, tried to call my family to let them know that within 24, 48, 72 hours, I would be back in the States and I'd need a lift home from the airport. So trying to get a hold of them, but then also trying to call Tom and let him know that, please leave the airport. I'm not coming out. I'm not coming out on Adelaide.
So Tom's in the airport waiting for you.
So he originally was obviously I then he was there to pick me up. And then I never came through.
All the players would have gone through. So Tom would have been there holding his sign, welcome home, Colleen. And then I'm assuming one of the players just said to him, oh, Colleen's chatting with customs.
No, so it was actually Haley Fuss. He saw her and was like, oh, where's Colleen? And she was just behind me. And then all of a sudden I didn't come out. And actually, while I was being questioned, because they knew that my partner was waiting for me, somebody actually went and talked to him while in the airport. So they asked him, did you know Colleen was working, and try to get him to incriminate me? And he just played dumb and said, no, I had no idea. And then when that person walked away, he called his parents, and his parents were like, just leave the airport. She'll call you if she gets out. So
And Tom went home, and him and his mum, Fran, basically burning stuff in the sink at home and burning diaries and any evidence that you existed?
Oh, not evidence that I existed, but they were a bit paranoid because, I honestly don't remember how long I was questioned, but it was a few hours that I was being detained and in a room and questioned at the airport. And so while all that was happening, apparently Tom and his mom went back to the apartment that we were living in and, found my diary that had all of my work schedule and apparently lit it on fire in the kitchen sink so that if any authorities came, there was no evidence.
So you had to link arms with 2 border security detention center employees. You're taken to a van. You're put in the van. Didn't get a big black bag chucked over your head as well. No, that's only in movies. A lady had to record you.
Yeah, so unfortunately, at this time there wasn't an inbuilt camera in the van, but they advised that because I was being deported and because I wasn't able to be put on a flight that day, that I had to be escorted to a detention center. So, instead of being handcuffed, I had to link arms and was escorted out of the airport into a van. And then it was something along the lines, they're like, for your safety and our safety, we do have to record you. So it was just somebody with a handheld video camera just pointed at me, and I'm just sitting in the van trying not to laugh, being like, what is happening?
So Colleen, the criminal, you were taken to a detention center about 20 minutes away, you reckon. You got told to take out 2 to 3 days worth of clothes. You were shown to your room. Like, it's just the standard, bunk beds, and a toilet, pretty much.
Yep. Yeah. So it was just there was 2 beds, so bunk beds, and there was a toilet. But that was one of the rooms. There's multiple rooms, and then there was like a common room.
Yep.
In your little building. So it wasn't just. So I was lucky. I was the only person in my room. I didn't have to share my room, but there was other people in my building common room area.
I love the whole point system. You were. How many points was it?
I think when you got there, you automatically started with 20 or 30 points, that you just, upon your arrival, you're given a certain amount of points.
And a drink was 2 points. A packet of barbecue shapes was 3 points.
Yeah. Depending on what. The first thing I spent my points on was a phone card, because in order to make phone calls, because obviously I wasn't allowed my cell phone or any electronics or anything in there. It's essentially jail.
So to call home, did that cost points?
Yeah, so I think I spent 10 points on a phone card. So if I made outgoing calls, it was a 10-minute phone call, card thing. So if I called out, it would waste some of my minutes. So essentially what you do is, so I would call Tom and say, "Hey Tom, it's me." And then if he called back, it didn't use any of my phone card. So I would just call him, be like, "It's me." He would ring back, and then the guard would, come find you and say, "Colleen, there's a phone call.
Yep.
Where would you like to take it?" Because there was certain, depending on where I was in the detention center, I could have taken it in different spots.
So you're talking to Tom, you wanted him to bring some of your belongings, because obviously, you'd been in South Korea and Japan, and you had a lot of stuff back at the house. He wasn't allowed to bring anything with him. Some of your illegal money as well, he wasn't allowed to bring. So Tom just pocketed a bit of coin for himself. So you're at the detention center. Did it feel like for a period you're in jail?
It did, but it didn't. So so it was a bunch of different almost different areas. There was the housing areas, but then there was a big common room where everybody could go. And that's where lunch and stuff was served. So almost like a cafeteria, but then there was another seating area to watch TV. Then there's the outdoor area. There was a basketball hoop, volleyball, different things. And then there was just a certain time, I think it was around 9 or 10 p.m. that you just had to be back in your housing unit thing. I never would have had to technically be in my room, but I had to technically be in my little house and common room. If I wanted to stay up in the common room until 4 a.m. watching TV, I could have. I just went to bed, but
obviously there were other people there ready to be deported. No other females from America in their mid-20s, or what were the other type of people like there?
No, so there was a gentleman. I want to say he was about 50 or 60. He was from Canada. He had gotten out of jail, but they misplaced his passport, or he couldn't find his passport, so they couldn't just release him back out into Australia because he didn't have a passport or anything. So he was in the detention center waiting his paperwork and stuff, but apparently he didn't get along with his family back home and they weren't helping send through his paperwork. So he had been there for quite a while. And then there was a few other younger gentlemen. I forget which country they were from, but they were here seeking asylum. So they were from like war-torn countries, I want to say in Africa, that so they were kind of here seeking asylum. So they were, trying to make better for themselves. Meanwhile, I just was working illegally.
So you had your, Tom came back, his parents, Paul and Fran. Your friend Trish came to visit you. You found out your flight was the following morning. So you spent 2 nights in the detention center. I love the story of how you gave what you gave. You left with some points and you were able to give them to some other people.
No, so with the point system, you could do different things to earn points. So some people, like if you took an English class, you could get points because they wanted to make sure that you were still like being part of society and still doing things. So there was one day we were playing volleyball. So I got some more points for playing volleyball and, hanging out and doing all of that. And then they wouldn't tell me when my flight was until very shortly. Like they weren't going to tell me it's in 5 days, it's in 2 days. I basically got like a 10-hour notice that it was the next morning.
And you had all these points up your sleeve,
Yeah, and so I said, because I was like, well, I'm not using them, there have been people here. So I actually asked them if I could give the points to other people, like if I could just spread them out. And they said no, that I wasn't allowed to do that. And then I was like, well, can I spend them? And then so they actually opened up like the canteen, like so that I could spend the points. And this is right before I had visitors coming. So I call it my last supper. I was gonna get, some drinks, some Oreos, some Tim Tams. So everybody, we could sit around a table and just chat and have a snack.
Basically wine and cheese. Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah, and that's when another gentleman had come up because he thought it was open and that he could get stuff as well. And they were like, oh no, we just opened it her so she could spend her points. And like, you can't spend your points because it's not the allotted time. And then I felt horrible. So I turned to him and I was like, what do you want? And he was like, he's like, I'd love a Sprite. So one of the things I did buy, so I was like, here you go. Like, I don't need it.
Great choice. Tom brought you a photo frame because it was in a glass frame. They couldn't give it to you. They confiscated it because you could have self-harmed.
Yes. So I was only allowed to leave the country with the amount of bags that I came in with. So obviously half of my belongings were still like at our apartment because I didn't fly with everything over to Japan and South Korea. But there was a few things. I remember I had just bought a pair of jeans that I really want. I was like, oh no, I just bought those. Those were expensive. Like, Tom, could you bring the jeans or something? And then he was quite nice and sentimental. And there's a photo of us that he thought, oh, I'll bring that. You can take that home with you. And they did explain that, they had this, but unfortunately they couldn't give it to me because they were afraid due to the glass that I would self-harm in my room before leaving.
Which is exactly, just crazy. But it's fascinating that you then, to get back to Philly, like obviously you had to fly to Hong Kong and then Hong Kong to Philly, like, escorts through airports, first one onto the plane. Didn't put you in business class, did they? Didn't get you in first class? Or
I did get first class for 20 minutes. 20 minutes. So, yeah, so I was to be escorted on and off every plane. And then even in Hong Kong on my layover, like I was escorted by a stewardess and was not allowed to leave their site. So, I couldn't go to any of the shops, get Macca's, get whatever I wanted. But yeah, so I was always the first one on the plane. So they'd escort me on the plane, they'd get me to my seat, and then about 20 minutes before landing, they would move me up to, if there was an open seat towards the front of the plane. So I got first class for the last 20. So of course, when you're supposed to be upright in the seated position, obviously I wanted to test out, what first class would have been like, but didn't get to.
So it wasn't until you are on home soil, they finally give you a passport, and then it's just like, see you later, off you go. You'd actually done your ACL when you were in Australia, so when you got back, at least you got that looked at. So at least you're productive with your time. I can imagine going through your head was, I'm back home, you're with your family, which is obviously the most important thing. How long was it until you started to think about, well, how do I get back to Australia? But also, did Tom, had he planned to come over and see you around that time as well?
Yeah, so actually, the second I was in the detention center is kind of when we were sorting out what we were doing. Luckily, the host family that I had lived with in that 2017, when I first came over playing lacrosse, Colin Pickett, he actually worked with or played basketball with a friend, and their son was an immigration lawyer. So while I was in the immigration center, I also got to call and talk to him, and he was very much like saying, I can't stop this deportation. Like, it's going to happen. I can't, like, there's nothing I can do to stop it, but I can help you come back. And he kind of explained that technically, because my visa was canceled, I now had a 3-year ban from Australia, and, kind of just talked about the options about how, we could wait out the 3 years and then try to apply to come back, or we could try to apply for compelling and compassionate reasons to waive that 3-year ban and for me to come back sooner. So I had kind of been gathering all of the information like while it was all happening, but once I was back on home soil, it was talking with Tom and really, nutting down, like, is this what we want to do? Do we want to pay a lawyer? Do I really want to come back there? Does he want to move to America? And then while all that was happening, kind of figuring out how long it would be. And then Tom and his parents made the decision in 2018. I believe they came out in February, and they visited and met my family and all of that while we were going through the visa process.
And got your photos and evidence together that you're in a loving relationship, just so you could prove that you actually are together and you're not trying to get back into the country to work illegally. I just will never forget when I saw Tom. It would have been probably around middle of 2017, like obviously not long after you're gone. I remember just seeing him, and I had no idea what had happened. I don't know how much like Tom had shared with his friends and his mates, but I just remember seeing him, and it was probably at the lacrosse club, and just said, "Hey mate, how you going? How's Colleen?" And his exact words were, "Well, she's been deported, and how do you reckon I'm going?" So it was a massive shock, and just obviously we knew. Well, I didn't actually. You'd only been together probably about, was it really like a year when it all happened? So for that to happen, like, were you crying? Like, was it, when you got back to America, like, was it just like, I miss Tom, I miss home, I can't believe this has happened? Or like, what was going through your head?
I think so. While being questioned and stuff, I was pretty, quite composed. I think when I finally got given my phone back, and I was able to make a phone call home to let someone know. I couldn't get a hold of my parents. Of course, they weren't answering my phone call.
Whenever you need them, they never pick up.
No, but one of my brothers, Chris, he picked up, and as soon as he said hello, I just immediately started bawling my eyes out. And he's like, "I can't understand you." And I'm like, "I'm being deported." And he's like, he's like, "What? What are you talking about?" And I just kept being like, "You need to keep calling mom and dad until they answer. I want my mom and dad. Like, I don't want to talk to you, Chris." So he finally got a hold of them, and I got to talk to them and just let them know that I was coming. But yeah, being home, because you're in that limbo. I'm like, is it 3 years that I'm there, that I'm serving this ban? Is it going to be a year? Are they going to waive it? Are they going to just cancel my new visa that we're applying for? So for me, it was I was living in limbo. Like, I didn't want to go find like a dream job that I've always wanted to work and then be torn. Oh, well, I love this job, but do I want to move back to Australia? So I just went back to work at serving and bartending and, just something that I'm like, I can do for 3 years if I need to. Basically, just make money, save money to then move back to Australia because that was our end goal. I knew Tom didn't want to move to the States, and I was quite happy to move and live in Australia.
Yep. Well, Jack Woodford wouldn't let him move to the States, So, and the Brighton Lacrosse Club would have just prevented that from happening. So you had your 3-year ban. July 2019, pretty much 2 years into it, you logged your paperwork. They waived the last year of your ban. And you basically had a month to get back to Australia. So, like we spoke about earlier, everything happened so quick. You had all this time to stew over it, and then they instantly just give you, you've got a month to be back. Go back to Australia. Just perfect timing, Colleen, that you're able to just qualify for the finals of the lacrosse at Brighton, because they lost in 2017 the first year you weren't there. They won in 2018, and then you've got back and just snag yourself a premiership.
Yes, I might have strategically looked and I've always known that you had to play 3 games to qualify to play for finals. So when I was told, I believe it was early July, that I had about 30 days to enter the country, I did happen to pull up Lacrosse SA's website and look at our schedule and find out when the last 3 games of the season were. So I did strategically make sure. I believe I got back on the 1st and I had to play on the 3rd to be able to get that first game, the first of 3 to qualify.
And I've lost count how many premierships you've won since you've been back in Australia. So since obviously you've been back, August 2019, on that de facto visa, and then after a year, sort of you've applied for a permanent resident for 5 years. That's just, that's just been renewed for another 5 years. You've got your choice moving forward if you want to become a citizen. We would love to have you. And I guess the best part of this story, and before we wrap up the pod, is that, March the 9th, 2024, you and Tom get married. So, what a full circle moment. Just quietly, I've never been to a wedding where it's been so friggin' hot, 40 degrees, and then within about half an hour of you getting married, a tornado just rolls in, and then back to stinking hot. But it's just incredible that you're here and you're not getting deported again. Thank God. Just quickly, Colleen, before we wrap up, just a little bit about yourself. What do you do for work?
So I work for a company called Teamworks. They're actually based and started out of the US, but we're growing over here in the APAC region. We work with professional and collegiate athletic teams. So we have almost all of the AFL teams here. We're just waiting on the Crows, I believe the Hawks, and another team. But we work with it's an app, so it's basically we're trying to be like the one-stop shop for sports. So working with sports all day.
You got Mac in June 2022, Mac the Coolie. All right, so a great dog. I reckon could literally chase the ball
all day.
It wouldn't stop.
My pride and joy.
It's a bit of an issue though with him moving forward because he's going to have to share the house with someone else. So you and Tom are expecting next month?
Yes, I'm currently 32 weeks pregnant. So, I say 8 more weeks, but, at any point I really could go into labor. But yeah, we're expecting a little human, unsure the gender. We're waiting. That's going to be a surprise for us. So we'll find out on the day.
Yep. And pregnant, and why not renovate the house at the same time? So, Colleen, you and Tom are very busy next few months and obviously rest of your life together. But not too many people can say that, they know someone that's been deported and also that they've been deported themselves. So, I've really loved hearing your story and I hope the listeners have as well. But Colleen O'Malley, thank you so much for coming on the Matt Whitford podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Always happy to be your deported friend.
Benny.
Large man.
Great having you here again at the dining room table for the second week in a row. Fair to say you've had a pretty big day.
Yeah, it's good to be back. It's a big day. I've had a big day. Parent-teacher interviews after school, and then Jared Nerlich popped around to get a haircut, which seems to be a more common occurrence these days. Now here we are. And I've had to bring the clippers as well.
So if we get this done first take like we are at the moment, mate, you can just fix up whatever I've got going on top of my head at the moment. But
haven't got much to work with, but it's all right.
Just get rid of the greys, mate. Now, look, not the circumstances we would have hoped to be meeting for tonight, but look, let's just go through the travesty that happened last Saturday night. And this has nothing to do with the 4-game suspension handed out that I was at Rankin earlier today. But as mentioned on last week's episode of the Matt Whitford podcast with Abby Ballard and yourself, you were, Benny, in the final of the Catcher Camper 3/4 time competition at the Crows and Collingwood game, Adelaide Oval, which was the biggest crowd ever at an Adelaide Oval AFL game. So Benny, you were one of the 2 highest scorers during the minor round, we could say, the previous Crows home games, and you squared off in the final. And look, first things first, mate. You were pretty confident heading in, weren't you?
Oh, I was confident in my ability to mark the ball, but I was coming off a Falcon the week before. But yeah, I don't know. I'd say I was confident, but I was also absolutely shitting it. I couldn't eat dinner.
Well, it's the 3rd home game in a row where you've basically you're sitting in your seats for the first halfway during the 3rd quarter.
Yeah. So you sit there and you just can't soak up the game at all. Like you said, 3rd game in a row, I'm doing it. And about 10 minutes into the 3rd, you got to get up and walk down and meet them at the meeting point, and then they take you down the lift and walk you through the basement. Walk past Tony Modra every time,
and gives you nothing.
Gives me nothing. He's like some sort of like money ball. He obviously too nervous to watch the game or something in the basement.
We'll try and get Mods on the pod, and I can talk to him about it. But
that'd be a good get.
So yeah, I actually did see your pre-game, and you were very nervous, and it was a cracking contest. Obviously, the game with the Adelaide and Collingwood. But look, you're up first in the final, full kit, like you had the previous 2 weeks. And
I had the front up full kit.
And the best thing was it was the 3rd week in a row, and I was down at ground level, and I think the crowd was really with you, and they remembered the bloke had worn his gear the last 2 weeks.
Oh, absolutely! I felt the support for sure.
There's a lot of support. So look, let's just get to the competition. First attempt, Benny, you were strong, mate. Like, you were never dropping that, leaving a little bit of a leap into it as well,
and a fall over after, just to make it look a bit more,
just dramatic, to ensure that you had the ball in your hands. Very Anthony Koutafidis-esque. But yeah, 75 points. So a very good start of the contest. Now, your opponent's up next, and this is where the controversy really begins. You were right there next to it. What were your thoughts, mate? Did he take it in the hands, or was the chest involved?
Well, at the time, I did think it looked like he took it on his chest, but I was sort of behind him as well, with this in a similar line to what the hosts were. And I was thinking, he's taking that in the chest. And there wasn't really, Callum Ferguson was the other host. His mic wasn't even on, as it turns out.
Former Test cricketer.
Yeah. And I'm looking at him, because it's so loud, I'm looking at him thinking he's signalling that it's a chest mark. And I didn't hear what Tomo said. And then I only noticed as my 2nd attempt launched up in the air, and I saw they just put 75 up on the scoreboard. So I'm not exactly sure who made the final call. It's all a bit up in the air.
So you're 75 points apiece, and then you attempt number 2, strong again, Benny, in the hands. And look, all of us that have played footy or watched it know how strong those hands are. So you're up to 150 points. Did you know at the time then that you were only going to get 2 attempts?
No, still at that stage we were getting 3.
Yep, like it was in the minor round. So your opponent then has his 2nd attempt and look, took it, well, I'd say more cleanly in the hands.
Solid.
Yeah, a little bit better than the first one. So
still a bit shaky.
Yeah, and they award him another 75 points. So
fair enough.
When it should have been 150 to you and 125 for him, we were expecting you to go up for that 3rd attempt, but
and I was feeling I was confident that the nerves had well and truly gone by then.
Yep, and you knew from the previous week, couldn't get ahead of yourself. You knew there was still another one in the hands to get you up to 225 points. But
I did have a bit of trauma there, but I was feeling good.
But I guess the competition took a bit of a turn there. So can you just tell our listeners what happened from here?
Well, I think it was a matter of they hadn't done two players during the three-quarter time all year, and it was already tight. We always knew it was going to be tight, but they were just so stressed about time that I think they just were panicking.
Yeah, because I think it was obviously 6 minutes is how long the three-quarter time huddle.
And it doesn't feel like that though, does it? It goes so quick.
Goes very quick. So
and then for whatever, I don't know why, because the time constraints don't really matter, because we got a third go, but the host told us that we have to take it one-handed.
Yeah,
I'm not, which is a suicide mission. And there's no way you're taking that one-handed.
And as we spoke about last week, that wasn't your strat.
No.
Your strat was 3 in the Dukes, 225 points.
Yeah.
And just make him make the play. So,
and I was feeling like I was I was a fair chance to mark that one, and I thought he was not so confident. Huge chance to drop that third one, but
mate. And the crowd was getting around you.
Yeah.
The Crows and Collingwood players, I've no doubt, would have been having a little peek around over their shoulder and seeing what was going on in the far wing. But you put it down in the hand, so the one-handed chest mark, you put it down. It was a bloody good effort, though.
It wasn't far off.
But then I remember saying, I was just chatting with some people in row A, and, I said to them, I go, well, they've said this is the last attempt. What happens if this bloke drops it as well? Which he did. So at this stage, mate, I think I was screaming out, give them both the prize, or,
yeah,
sudden death, or someone actually said you should have had a mark-off, an actual Oleg mark-off.
One-on-one. How good would that be?
One-on-one.
Should have been that from the start.
Or, like back in the day, junior footy training, the coach just kicks the ball along the ground. Whoever gets the ball and gets a clean handball back to the coach wins.
Yeah, see, I would have been in all sorts. The ground ball's not my my team.
But look,
I thought there was 3 ways it could have gone when it was a tie. I knew that obviously a count back, and realistically that was probably the fairest way to do it if it was a tie, even though it shouldn't have been a tie.
Correct.
But if it was a tie, they went the count back. But that was never mentioned at any point as a tiebreaker. The only tiebreaker we were told was in the minor round that it would come down to style if there was a tie. So in my head, I'm thinking, they've mentioned that before. Is this what they'll go? Option 2, I thought, do they go with the crowd? Do they go, all right, who do we think's going to...
Mate, the crowd was...
Oh, and I'm thinking, I should be on there.
And there's a rumour going around the other bloke who was wearing a Crows guernsey was actually a Port supporter as well. So
he stole my character.
Yeah.
Go on the kit.
So, look, in front of 54,000 people, it's been announced that the other person, we won't mention his name, has won on a count back. So, look, basically 2 weeks ago when you were falconed, if you took that mark, that would have actually put you top of the leaderboard, and that actually would have won you the Jaco Lark. Yeah. How does that make you feel, Ben?
Well, actually, I thought maybe we couldn't bring that up. That would have been nice, but yeah. You reflect on it. I'm sticking to being a sore loser at the moment.
Mate, I was seething, and at the time, obviously I met up with your lovely fiancée Kaylee and her sister Brianna, Lockie Denyer, Jared and Jess Nerlich, and we were actually really angry.
I didn't realise until I saw as we started walking off. I didn't realise how obvious that was, because I thought I'm seeing what I want to see. I thought he's taking that in the chest, but I didn't think I'd been robbed at that point.
Because you came over and you signed a few autographs, had a few selfies with a couple of Adelaide Crows nuffies, myself included. But I'll never forget, I walked back to the hill where I was standing with my best mate and brother-in-law and some family friends, and they were legitimately, Benny's been robbed here. And the amount of people that you walk past, because you do your walk back to your seats, giving you their support.
Well, it started with as soon as they made that decision, they said it's going to have to go to default tiebreaker, and legitimately the crowd was booing. Like it was a real genuine boo.
I think it was the loudest boo of the other than when Nick Dacos went down after he got tapped in the chest.
Yeah.
And look, just for our listeners there, I was going to say this is not us whinging. This is 100% us whinging, because look, I know, Benny, you were the one involved, but I want justice to be served. So has there been any follow-up from you, the Adelaide Footy Club, or even Jaco?
Well, I didn't want to be the sore loser and complaining about it, but I've had a lot of people telling me that you'd be silly not to just at least ask the question. So
we may be, Ben, we may be in a Adelaide Football Club group messenger chat, and we were strongly encouraging you to find justice.
Yeah, it's just, because like you said before, I was walking back to it. I reckon there would have been legitimately 100 people, 100 people.
I counted thousands. That was just me.
No, but walking back during the fourth quarter, people just coming up, mate, that's absolute bullshit. Blah, blah, blah. Walking out, and we caught up with you after, and you saw how many, we're just standing there having a chat, and people just kept coming.
Mate, you would have thought you were playing in the game, and obviously in full kit still.
Yeah.
So obviously you've fired off an email, and
it was pretty clear that it wasn't just
bias.
Us seeing what we wanted to see for a camp.
We weren't being biased, but you did fire off an email, I believe.
Well, we got some footage from a few different people and slowed it down and zoomed in. It was just absolutely blatantly obvious
of the other bloke.
He's taking a chest mark. Yeah,
basically, he hugged the footy.
But then the other issue was that why did we have to take the third one-handed? That was the other one. So not sure, but yeah.
But anyway, mate. Look, I did. Not that I'm a huge user of X, formerly known as Twitter. Good to see, though, you've got Tom Richardson in your corner.
Tom Richardson, he's my man. I've never met him before. I'd love to meet him. I've been made aware of a post on X that he's made. I love that he's thinking about that on a Wednesday night as well.
Well, it was the real travesty. You know, like the Crows got up by a couple of points at the end.
Yeah.
Obviously, we didn't know about, what had transpired with Isaac Rankin and the Collingwood defenders, but Tom Richardson's on the money, mate. That was the real travesty from Saturday night.
Yeah. No, he and it's got plenty of I think he's got 17,000 views now, and a few reposts, and there's plenty of people chiming in.
Is there a hashtag trending?
There is hashtag Justice for Miller. Tom Richardson started, and hashtag Campergate.
So hashtag Justice for Miller and hashtag Campergate. So
there's also the another interesting thing was that Jaco, there was people writing on the Facebook and Instagram posts when they announced the winner, and Jaco blocked the comments on Instagram,
which means they know they're
days because people just kept writing stuff on. Anyway,
well, just like the AFL need to really reconsider what's happened with Isaac Rankin, I think Jaco has to definitely look at the travesty that occurred on Saturday night, because look, it would have been a fair, you obviously can't split a caravan, but 30 grand in value, I believe the Jaco Lark, $15,000 each. It's justice for Miller, and that was what we'll be hashtagging. It should have been obviously justice for Benny, but we're not going to blame Tom Richardson because he's just brought this attention to light. So Benny, look, this won't be the last one we're going to be on the podcast. Hopefully the next time we have you on will be Jaco righting their wrong, and like I said, finding a hashtag justice for Miller. Now, just quickly, mate, like I do with all my mates, and look, all of our listeners, I believe, are taking a keen interest in your life, mate. What are the weekend plans? Obviously, with the Crows playing away against North Melbourne, got anything planned? Because you won't be at Adelaide Oval.
No, we're heading down to for the second year in a row the Berry Open golf tournament. So we'll go straight from work tomorrow, heading down with Luke Caruso.
Good man, and a listener of Halfwit as well.
He is. We might listen to this episode, Colleen O'Malley. Mate, on the drive tomorrow.
Well, Colleen was fantastic, and loved having you back on.
Sorry, Colleen Freeman. Now,
Colleen Freeman. Now, correct. And we were both at that wedding, the 42-degree wedding that stinking hot. Then a little tsunami came in, and we were sweating profusely for a large period of that night.
Great night though.
So Benny, look, let's we probably should end this and get those clippers out, mate, because I am due for a cut. So
what are you thinking?
Is it called a fade or a skin fade? I believe that's what all the kids get.
Skin fade, or do you want to go modern age French mullet, Mitch Georgiades style?
Just get rid of the greys, mate. That's all I'm caring about.
Yeah, I don't do that.
Benny, thanks again for coming on Halfwit, mate. And like I said, hashtag justice for Miller. Yes, it was right in front of me. And yes, we have come to the end of another episode of Halfwit. I just want to thank my two guests that were on today's episode. To Benny Miller, mate, you were robbed last Saturday night at Adelaide Oval, but I love the way you've kept your head up and you've remained positive all week. Hopefully, more and more people can get on X and follow Tom Richardson, and the hashtag Justice for Miller can result in that Jayco Swan caravan ending up in your garage in no time. To Colleen, you were awesome to interview, and I've no doubt our listeners loved hearing your story. You're a one of a kind, and I know that Australia/South Australia/CV Downs is better off for having you in it. Since the interview with Colleen, her and Tom have welcomed the beautiful Murphy Elizabeth Freeman into the world. I was very fortunate enough to head around there tonight and have a hold of little Murphy, and she's an absolute trooper. Tom just wanted me to make it known that Murphy was named not after a current Adelaide Crows player, but instead a popular liquor store. So all the best to you, Tom and Colleen, with little Murphy. Moving forward on the podcast, next week I interview former Adelaide Crow player Chris Laddams. Chris is going to talk about his journey through the junior ranks at North Adelaide, playing his 54 games for the Adelaide Crows, heading back to North Adelaide afterwards, and then all the country footy that Chris has played over the last 15 or so years. Thanks again for everyone who has listened, followed, liked the Matt Whitford podcast on Instagram, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and also YouTube. It's been a blast so far, and I'm really, really enjoying it. And more importantly, I hope you are enjoying listening to the podcast. I'm Matt Whitford. Thanks for listening.